Welcome back, everyone. Friar Tuck here. This is my epoch, and this is this week's hobo tutorials. I'm still working on my production and stuff like that, as far as getting routines down. So for those of you that have stuck with me, I want to say thank you. What I'm going to be talking about today is not necessarily what it's like being homeless, but I did a video today I did two videos today. The first one, I was talking about what's going on in Israel, and that you may have 3 weeks to homelessness. And then the other one I was talking about is the 3 types of homelessness, or the core 3 types. Okay, and both of those have a lot of relevance as far as homelessness, how it affects you, so on and so forth. So really what I want to cover is the difference in the lifestyles, okay? Because when you're in the drug world, I mean, you see things different. When you are in the criminal world, you see things different. But when you are in the homeless world, like I am, you definitely see things differently. And in a lot of ways, I haven't lost who I am as an individual, even though I'm homeless. And so how do I help you do those things? How do I help you get to that point to where if you end up out here, whether it be because you're bugging out, because you're a prepper, or because you're dispossessed in the great dispossession, or you're just trying to become a better homeless person to begin with, okay? So how can I help you stay on the straight and narrow? The things that are working for me is keeping myself busy. Just like in school, if you remember, the whole reason why they had the whole after-school programs was because it kept kids out of trouble. It kept kids from being idle, because idleness leads to trouble. Okay, and so when I was in middle school, I got to do a lot of after-school programs. I was part of a rowing program. We did rock climbing. We did all kinds of stuff, and later on in school, I also got into sports, and I played football, which was more extracurricular activity. So by definition, the whole reason why people were having their kids do this was to keep them on the straight and narrow, keep their nose clean, and keep them essentially from going through a circumstance like what I'm going through. Okay, but that's not necessarily, it's not necessarily a fix-all. What did those things do to kind of help me be the person that I am, to be able to retain and maintain who I am as a human being, and not lose myself in the moment of being homeless? And a lot of that has to do with the after school programs, because it taught me something very important, is that you keep yourself productive, you find things, you be creative on how you fill your time. Now, my mother was a workaholic, because she no longer exists. So yeah, my mom was a workaholic. That is something that she passed down to me. My mom would go into work on her days off, and she always worked, and we were always at the babysitter, and she loved working because she loved her job and she loved what she did. And that was a huge influence on me. And so being homeless now, I need to be able to generate revenue. I need to be able to generate commerce. Now, each time I come out here, it's a little different. Like in Eugene, I had $100 in my pocket. I sat there and I watched the happenings. I bought me some weed. I sat there, watched the happening of what was going on, and I almost ended up starting a business called I don't know, it was I forget what we were going to name it, but it was putting the homeless to work. But then I found out that the homeless really don't want to work. Most of them don't, because they can make more money panhandling, or they don't want to pay taxes, or they're so used to getting things under the table and given to them. There's all kinds of different reasons why this happens. And so it was called Hobos for Hire. And so I wasn't able to get it started, but I was able to get plenty of work for myself. I lived very comfortably. I was able to go buy my weed. I never had to beg or panhandle, because I found out ways to make money. But it took me a minute to sit around and to watch. In San Francisco, I didn't really need money, because, I could take my food stamps and I could go to Carl's Jr. and have me a meal. I mean, I got $15 every on the 1st and 15th, so I could go buy my roll your own cigarettes. And so if I didn't want to do anything, I didn't have to, because I didn't have that many vices, and I would get my weed when it came about. I wasn't as consistent with it back then as I am now. I mean, as you get older, I like my wine every night when I come home from work, versus when you're a kid, you're like, I'll have a wine tonight because I can afford it, because I feel like I'm in the mood for it. Okay, certain things change when you get older. And so there, making money was on Craigslist. And so what I would do is I would go sell my food stamps a little bit, and I would go buy me an AT&T phone. I never sold all of them, just enough to go buy me a phone, buy me a dime bag, and buy me a pack of smokes maybe, and make sure that I had bus money, so maybe $40. Okay, so I maybe sold $100 of my food stamps. Okay, so I sold probably about half of them. All right, but I never sold all of them because I wanted to keep the food stamps so that I could go to Carl's Jr. I could go to many of the restaurants, because you had a hot food card in San Francisco. In Portland, I was in college, and I looked around. I used the bulletin boards and stuff like that. So I was homeless, but I was also in school. So I was working to better myself. I was too busy to be able to get myself into trouble, and I was inside out of the elements because I was doing productive work, and then I ended up finding a job petitioning, and then another job at a call center, and things like that. And I even ended up getting a cost of living check to take care of my rent in case I didn't want to work, but I still wanted to work. Okay, and so if you look at every time that I've been homeless, so I was in Houston, and I figured out a hustle. One of the hustles was sitting out. There was a nightclub a couple blocks down. Everybody parked their car. It was free parking. Hey, $5, I'll watch your car for you. After a while, they thought I was a parking attendant. I made like a couple $100 that night. And then also in San Antonio, I went and knocked doors. But if you listen to these stories and kind of how I'm able to keep the person that I am, is that if you notice, I didn't, there's nothing talking about how I got down in the dumps, how I got depressed, how I had nothing to do, how I was constantly jumping through hoops for government services. If government services took too much of my time, I wouldn't go get them. Okay, unless it was absolutely necessary. Like in this situation, it's absolutely necessary that I have my food stamps, because I need to be able to have free time to be able to do my production. Okay, things like that. And if you keep yourself busy, if you keep yourself focused, if you design a plan. Okay, my plan this time was build a YouTube channel. My plan the time before that was to relocate my business. My plan before that was to rebuild my business because I wanted to make a change, and things like that. So making a change, you're going to lose a lot of revenue. Doing a major pivot, you're gonna end up out in your car for a couple of months while you rebuild your book of business. But I was good at it. I put my hustle in because I had nothing else to worry about, because when you have a home, you have to maintain it. Well, now I don't have all that time that I have to spend on maintaining it, so now I'm freed up to be able to take care of my basics and be productive and find things that are going to make me money so that I can live comfortable. It doesn't always have to end up where I end up off the streets. Like, it took me over a year to get off the streets in San Francisco. This is the longest I've ever been on the streets in one time, because again, the way I got on and got off the streets is, as you see, I become productive. I find ways to make money, and then I network, and then I find a job. I go after low-hanging fruit. I do these different things so that when it comes to the end of the day, I can look myself in the mirror and say, yeah, I was homeless, but I didn't become a drug addict. I didn't wallow. I barely even knew that I was homeless, because, the only thing that reminded me that I was homeless is, look at where I'm sleeping. See? That's the only thing that tells me that I'm homeless. What I do during the day. See, this is what I don't get about people. See this? It's like the whole world needs to hear your music. I bet you if I played some bagpipe music, you'd tell me to shut it off. But anyways, this is the thing, with how I've been able to be successful, is I've been successful because I don't, in the way my drug of choice becomes work, because again, I became a workaholic because of my mom, and the only way you can get off the streets is to work. So you hustle and you hustle and you work and you work and you work and you just keep working until you finally make it. And then when you finally make it, they're going to rip the carpet out from under you, and then you're going to have to start all over again. Okay, so it's a life of never-ending work, and this is something that as an individual you should be prepared for if you get into this lifestyle, because you may be struggling for many years, especially if the economy falls apart the way Billy Meyer says it is. Because if it falls apart like this, what I've been going through will be your next 20 years. Okay, so I hope that this helps you understand how to stay clean, safe, productive, get on and off the streets, not lose who you are, and actually be, retain the content of your character, not have to sacrifice yourself just because you're in this position, not have to dehumanize yourself, not have to compromise yourself, your values, your standards, or any of those things. Okay, unless they're unrealistic or just arrogant and egotistical. I mean, I've even had a few of those. It's like, yeah, no, okay. But okay, so anyways, guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you in next week's Hobo tutorial.